Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a close look at the global liquid biofuels market. We've got a pretty detailed 2025 report to guide us.
Yeah, and it's a really important area, especially with everyone talking about renewable energy and, well, cutting carbon emissions.
Absolutely. And the first thing that just jumps out is the sheer size of this market. We're talking, what, USD 176.24 billion globally in 2025.
That's the number. It's already significant, and the
Fine.
growth trajectory is pretty impressive too.
Okay, but before we get to growth, maybe just clarify liquid biofuels. What exactly are we including here?
Good point. So we mean things like biodiesel, bioethanol, those are the common ones, but also others like bioheavy oil.
Right.
And they come from all sorts of raw materials, feedstocks we call them. Think corn, sugarcane, but also vegetable oil, palm oil, even waste materials sometimes. It's quite a mix.
Okay, so a broad category. And you mentioned growth, but I also noticed looking through this some really interesting differences across the world, like who's big now versus who's growing fastest.
Exactly. North America is the current leader, no doubt. But Asia Pacific is growing at a remarkable rate. We should definitely unpack that.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's start with that big picture again. The 2025 number was $176.24 billion. Where is it headed?
The projection in this report is USD 361.61 billion by 2033.
Wow. Okay, that's almost double in what, 8 years?
Pretty much. It works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 9.40% for that period, 2025 to 2033.
9.4%. That's some serious momentum, like you said. What's behind that push?
Well, the main engine here is the rising demand globally for renewable energy sources. Simple as that, really. Countries, industries, they're all looking to cut their carbon footprint, and biofuels are a key part of the puzzle.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's break it down geographically. You said North America leads.
Yeah, they hold the largest share right now, over 40% of global revenue, actually.
40%. Okay. What's their market size in 2025 terms?
USD 65.21 billion for North America overall in 2025.
And their growth rate, is it keeping pace?
It's solid, projected at 7.8% CAGR through 2033. Still very healthy growth, just not quite as high as the global average.
And within North America, I assume the U.S. is the biggest player.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. market was USD 51.45 billion in 2025. Its growth is projected around 7.6%.
Okay. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's showing slightly faster growth, actually. Their 2025 market was USD 7.83 billion, but the CAGR is projected at 8.6%.
Yeah, interesting.
And Mexico, USD 5.93 billion in 2025, with an expected growth of 8.3% annually.
So North America's clearly got a strong position. What factors really put them in the lead right now?
It's kind of a combination of things. The report points to, well, significant investments they've made in renewable tech. There's strong domestic demand, too.
Right.
Plus, you've got supportive government policies, federal and state level. They've got relatively mature infrastructure for production and distribution.
Infrastructure is key, I imagine.
Absolutely. And ongoing tech advancements, plus just growing awareness among consumers about environmental issues. All these things kind of feed into each other.
Okay. Makes sense. So let's hop across the pond to Europe. Second largest market, you said.
That's right. Europe accounts for just over 30% of the global revenue.
So still a major player. What's their 2025 value?
USD 51.11 billion in 2025. And their projected growth is a bit higher than North America's, actually 8.4% CTR from 2025 to 2033.
8.4%.
Okay.
And which countries are the powerhouses within Europe?
Well, Germany leads the pack in terms of size, USD 10.12 billion in 2025, growing at about 8.6%.
Okay.
The UK is next, USD 8.59 billion, but with slightly faster projected growth at 9.2%. Then you have Russia, quite significant at USD 7.92 billion, though growing a bit slower at 7.4%. And France, USD 4.70 billion, growing at 7.6%.
So a lot happening there, too. What's driving the European market? Similar factors to North America.
Largely similar, yes. Strong environmental policies are a big one in Europe, often driven by the EU. Lots of investment, both public and private, in renewables.
Regulations, too, I bet.
Yep.
Blending mandates and things.
Exactly. Those mandates are crucial. Plus, ongoing tech innovation, rising consumer awareness, that's a common theme, and also quite a bit of industry collaboration happening over there.
Okay. Now let's shift gears to the region you flagged as the fastest growing. Asia Pacific or APAC?
Yeah, this is where the growth story gets really dynamic. APAC held around 23% of the global revenue in 2025.
Okay, so third largest currently. What was their 2025 value?
USD 42.30 billion. But the key number here is the projected CAGR from 2025 to 2033. a really striking 12.2%.
12.2%. Wow. Okay, that is a big jump compared to North America and Europe. Which countries are driving that surge?
China's the biggest market within APAC, no surprise there. USD 17.76 billion in 2025, growing at
It's
11.7%.
still very high growth.
Very high. But India is projected to grow even faster, a 14.1% CAGR. Their 2025 market size was smaller, USD 4.23 billion, but that growth rate is huge.
14%. Wow. Anyone else significant?
Japan's also notable, USD 5.84 billion in 2025, and growing at a strong 10.7%.
So what's fueling this sort of explosive growth across APAC? What's different there?
Well, several things are converging. You've got rapid industrialization and urbanization in many parts of the region, which means simply a huge increase in energy
What,
demand.
baseline demand is just soaring.
Exactly. And governments there are really stepping up support for renewables with policies and incentives. There's also a lot of investment flowing in, technological advancements happening, often tailored to local feedstocks. And like elsewhere, growing environmental awareness is playing a part too.
Okay, a perfect storm for growth almost. Let's move on to South America. Their share is smaller, over 5%, the report says.
That's right. South America's market was about USD 6.70 billion in 2025. But their growth is also projected to be strong, 10.1% CAGR through to 2033.
10%. Still very solid growth. And when you think South America and biofuels, you immediately think Brazil, right?
Absolutely. Brazil is a huge player. Their market was USD 2.87 billion of that total in 2025, and they're projected to grow even faster than the regional average at 10.7%.
And that's largely sugarcane-based ethanol, isn't it? They've been doing that for ages.
Precisely. They have a very established and efficient industry around sugarcane ethanol.
So what drives growth across the rest of South America, or even reinforces Brazil's position?
Well, the whole region is rich in agricultural resources, which means plenty of potential feedstocks. Government support is generally strong.
Correct.
They're building out infrastructure, adopting new technologies, and there's demand both domestically and for export. Plus, environmental policies are also a factor.
Got it. Okay, next up, the Middle East, holding around 2% of the market share.
Yeah, roughly 2%. Their market value in 2025 was actually slightly higher than South America's at USD 7.05 billion, and their projected growth is also quite high, 10.7% CAGR.
Interesting, 10.7%. Which countries are leading there?
Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the key ones highlighted. Saudi Arabia had a market of USD 2.48 billion in 2025, projected to grow at 11.0%.
Wow.
And the UAE USD 1.45 billion market with an even higher projected growth of 11.2%.
Okay, this might seem counterintuitive to a region known for oil and gas pushing biofuels. What's the motivation?
It really boils down to strategic thinking.
Hmm.
Energy diversification is a major goal, reducing reliance on just oil and gas. Plus, there's a growing focus on long-term sustainability.
So planning for the future, essentially.
Exactly. Governments are investing in renewables, including biofuels. They're researching feedstocks suitable for arid climates, looking at things like algae, perhaps. And they're working on integrating biofuels into transport and industry, often through international partnerships.
Fascinating. Okay, last region, Africa. Currently the smallest share, around 1%.
Yes, about 1% globally. The market size in 2025 was estimated at USD 3.88 billion.
But still growing.
Oh, yes. Projected CKGR is 9.7% through 2033. So nearly matching the global average rate.
Okay. And within Africa, any specific countries to watch?
South Africa stands out. Their market was USD 1.36 billion in 2025, projected to grow at 10.6%. Nigeria's market is smaller, USD 0.31 billion, but projected growth is also strong at 9.9%.
And what's driving biofuel adoption in Africa? Similar themes again?
Similar themes, but maybe with some specific regional twists. There's a definite focus on renewable energy development and sustainability. The continent has vast biomass resources, which is a plus.
Untapped potential, perhaps?
Potentially, yes. Governments are starting initiatives for cleaner energy. Energy security is a big motivator, too, reducing reliance on imported fossil fuels. And like elsewhere, investments in infrastructure and technology, plus international collaborations, are helping to build momentum.
Okay, that gives us a really good picture of the global landscape. Let's dive into the market segments now, starting with the type of biofuel.
Right. So the report breaks it down. Bioethanol, basically alcohol from fermenting sugars in crops like corn or sugarcane, currently holds the major share.
Why is ethanol dominant?
Well, it's widely used, often blended with gasoline. Government policies in many places mandate or encourage this. Feedstocks like corn and sugarcane are available in large quantities, and the technology for producing ethanol is pretty mature and keeps improving.
Okay, but I think the report said biodiesel is the fastest growing type.
That's correct. Biodiesel, which comes from vegetable oils, animal fats, even used cooking oil, is seeing very rapid growth.
And why is that taking off so quickly?
A few reasons. There's huge demand for cleaner alternatives to traditional diesel fuel. Governments are offering incentives, and crucially, the technology for using diverse feedstocks, including waste oils and even algae, is getting much better. Plus, the infrastructure needed to handle biodiesel is expanding.
Interesting. So moving from type to the feedstocks themselves, the raw materials, what's the breakdown there?
Well, currently, corn is the dominant feedstock used globally.
Because of ethanol production primarily.
Exactly. Corn has a high starch content, making it efficient for ethanol. There's a huge agricultural infrastructure supporting grain production, ensuring supply. And again, government policies, especially in the U.S., have heavily favored corn-based ethanol.
Okay. But just like with biofuel types, there's a fastest growing feedstock too.
Yes, and that would be vegetable oil.
Uh,
This includes things like soy oil, rapeseed oil, palm oil, and used cooking oil.
why is vegetable oil usage growing so fast?
It's becoming more available. Sometimes it's more cost-effective than other options. It's very suitable for making that fast-growing biodiesel we just talked about.
Ah, okay, the two are linked.
Definitely. And again, supportive policies and better conversion technologies are making it increasingly attractive.
Makes sense. Okay, final segmentation. End use. Where do all these biofuels actually end up?
The biggest user, by far, is the transport sector.
Not surprising. Cars, trucks, planes, ships.
Precisely. The demand for fuel in transport is just massive, and regulations targeting lower emissions from transport are a huge driver for biofuel adoption here. Technological improvements in engines that can handle higher biofuel blends also help.
Right. But again, fastest growing segment. That wasn't transport.
No, the fastest growing end-use segment, according to this report, is actually electricity generation.
Really. Using biofuels to make power.
Yes. As utilities look for cleaner ways to generate electricity, biofuels are increasingly part of the mix. The efficiency of biofuel power plants is improving.
Okay.
Supportive policies for renewable electricity generation play a role, naturally. And ongoing technological innovations are making it more viable and attractive.
Okay, interesting shift there. So if we take a step back and look at the whole market again,
Huh.
what are the big overarching forces pushing it forward, the main drivers?
The report really highlights three key things.
Hmm.
First, agricultural surplus in many parts of the world. That provides the raw materials, the feedstocks.
Right, using what's available.
Second, the global push on climate change. That creates the demand for cleaner, renewable alternatives to fossil fuels.
The policy driver.
Exactly. And third, energy security concerns. Countries want to reduce their dependence on volatile global oil and gas markets, so producing fuel domestically looks attractive.
Okay. Drivers make sense. What about the flip side? What's holding the market back? The main restraints.
Infrastructure is a big one. You need the right kind of storage, transport, pipelines, distribution networks for these fuels. It's not always the same as for gasoline or diesel. Building that out takes time and money.
Yeah, I can see that. Anything else?
The other major challenge is the sustainable availability of feedstocks on a really large scale. Ensuring that growing biofuel crops doesn't compete with food production or lead to deforestation or other land use problems, that's a constant balancing act.
The food versus fuel debate, essentially.
That's a big part of it, yes. Finding feedstocks that don't cause those issues is crucial for long-term sustainable growth.
Okay. Are there any other interesting trends shaping the market right now? Things to watch?
Yeah, a couple of things mentioned. One is the increasing use of AI and automation in biofuel processing. That's all about optimizing efficiency, cutting costs, getting more fuel out of the feedstock.
Makes sense. Tech improving things?
The other big trend is collaboration. More partnerships between governments, private companies, research groups. They're pooling resources and expertise to tackle challenges and scale things up faster.
And the report actually cited a couple of recent examples of that, didn't it?
It did. There was one from July 2024, Liquid Wind and Uniper partnering up. They're focused on developing commercial-scale plants for e-methanol, which is a type of advanced biofuel, basically fossil-free.
Okay, methanol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another example from December 2023 involved Alfa Laval and Bisferiti. Their collaboration is about improving the process of turning organic and food waste into biofuel, making that recycling process more efficient and sustainable.
So real-world examples of that collaboration trend. And generally, the competitive space is driven by tech, partnerships.
Right.
What else?
Well, government policies and sustainability goals are hugely influential, shaping where investment goes. Companies are really focused on R&D to improve efficiency and bring down costs, trying to find that competitive edge through better technology or diversifying their feedstocks. And scalability, being able to produce large volumes consistently, that's key too.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's try to synthesize this.
Hmm.
What are the absolute key takeaways you think someone should get from this deep dive?
Well, first, the market is already big, over $176 billion in 2025. Second, it's projected to grow strongly, nearly doubling by 2033, really driven by that global push for renewables and climate action.
Right, and we saw big regional differences. North America leads now, but APAC is where the really rapid growth is expected.
Exactly. Then there's the segmentation. Bioethanol is dominant now, but biodiesel's growing fastest. Corn is the main feedstock, but vegetable oil use is surging. Transport uses the most biofuel, but electricity generation is the fastest growing end use.
And we covered the driver's ag surplus, climate goals, energy security, and the restraints, mainly infrastructure and sustainable feedstock supply.
Precisely. And don't forget the trends like AI and processing and those crucial collaborations, all happening within a competitive landscape shaped by tech, policy, and the need to scale up sustainably.
Okay, so what were the real aha moments for you looking through this? Anything that really stood out?
For me, it's probably the sheer scale of that projected growth, especially in places like APAC, and the speed at which segments like biodiesel and feedstocks like vegetable oil are expanding. It just underlines how seriously the world is starting to take this transition.
Yeah, I agree. The scale is impressive.
Mm.
And also how interconnected it all is. Policy driving demand, demand pushing technology, technology enabling new feedstocks. It's a complex system.
Absolutely. The influence of policy and the strategic goals around energy security really come through strongly, too. And those partnerships show it's not something one company or even one country can do alone.
Right. So let's leave our listeners with a final thought. Given these huge growth projections, what are the ripple effects? Think about agriculture, transport networks, the existing energy grid.
Mhm.
What needs to change to accommodate this shift?
And maybe also, considering the challenge, especially around feedstocks, what's next? What new feedstocks, maybe waste streams, algae, advanced crops, or what breakthrough technologies could really shake things up and help us realize the full potential of biofuels sustainably?
Definitely something to think about. A lot happening in this space.
Hmm.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.